entire LA basin is at risk for a public health crisis. Now, if it ends up being typhus or plague, I don't know what it's going to be, but rodents are a vector, and we are one of the only cities in the country that doesn't have a rodent control plan. Heroin and meth takes people to the street.
You guys have been here for so long. I mean, have you seen it exponentially explode in the last couple of years?
Oh, God.
Yeah.
It's
From last
worse.
year to this year, it's gotten worse. A lot of it is drugs, dope. A lot of it is mental illness.
So you don't fit either category?
Oh, yes, I do. Oh, absolutely.
Which one?
I'm in recovery myself.
Oh, you're recovering. Okay.
It is a FEMA-like, Red Cross-like, and I will say National Guard-like disaster that we're seeing. And it's not just Skid Row. It's throughout LA.
There's no attempt to do anything with sanitation here, right? See all that trash and stuff?
Yeah.
See, look at that sewer. That's all garbage, rats, and feces. It's all going directly into the LA River and right out to the ocean. The sanitation promotes the rat population. Estimates are that we have around more rats than humans, around 12 million rats here. And if 2% of the rat population comes up with Yersinia, you will see plague in the human population. We already have typhus exploding. Much like malaria exists in certain areas, typhus exists in certain areas. This is one of those areas. And now the state of California is about to outlaw rodenticides because of concerns about the mountain lions, which I share. But if we don't do something about this, your children are going to be exposed and die. MRSA is all over the place. Reverend Bales lost his leg because of MRSA. I'm appealing to the federal government. We need to triage this, we need to inventory it, and we need to treat it and manage this like the humanitarian crisis that it is. I don't understand how people can live with this. I can't. As a doctor, I cannot live with this going on in my city. I could not live with that going on in my city, and as I was explaining to Emily Campagno there, and yet we have lived yet another 6 years with the same thing, worse, nothing better. Oh, I'm sorry. Housing first. Oh, it must have done so much, because that's a great approach. No, worse, many thousands have died. What are we doing here? To talk about that will be Art Kleinschmidt. Let me give you his official title now. Art can be followed at SAMHSA.gov, SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Association, I think. He is, of course, a PhD and an MBA and a health professional, addiction counselor. He is the acting director of SAMHSA presently. And then we're going to talk to Andrew Gruel to open things up. You know Gruel from Gutfeld and also his stand against Governor Newsom when he attempted to close down outdoor dining and restaurants. And then finally, Anthony Brown will join us. He himself was formerly homeless. Now he's setting up programs and homes for people in recovery from drugs and homelessness. Stay with us. We're right back.
Our laws as it pertains to substances are draconian and bizarre. The psychopaths start this way. He was an alcoholic because of social media and pornography, PTSD, love addiction, fentanyl and heroin. Ridiculous. I'm a doctor, for Christ's sake. Where the hell do you think I learned that? I'm just saying, you go to treatment before you kill people. I am a clinician. I observe things about these chemicals. Let's just deal with what's real. We used to get these calls on Loveline all the time. Educate adolescents and to prevent and to treat. If you have trouble you can't stop and you want help stop it, I can help. I got a lot to say. I got a lot more to say.
I've spent most of my career dealing with illnesses that shorten life, and now we have ways to extend it and extend wellness. I've been working with the team over at V-Shred to develop a product that has everything I want in a longevity supplement. NR Boost has nicotinamide riboside. You know, metal can rust. Well, your body behaves in a similar way. It's mediated through something called NAD. NAD falls as we age, so we're less able to fight off that oxidative process. We oxidize much like that metal. And NAD fights it, but nicotinamide riboside elevates NAD so we can push back on those oxidative stressors, improving health, improving longevity. The other product is Senosync, has fisetin, one of the key molecules to fight off zombie cells, and we've added resveratrol to that, which is a well-known anti-aging antioxidant again. I don't like supplements that have a ton of ingredients. To me, it suggests that none of it's working. When I prescribe a medication, I prescribe that medicine because I expect that to work. That is exactly what I've done with these products. And I want you to go to drdrew.com/vshredmd for 10% off. Again, that is drdrew.com/vshredmd. Yeah, I was just thinking about that little opening sequence we have. I think when I was talking to Anderson Cooper in that particular clip, saying you get treatment before you kill people, I believe I was talking about Sandy Hook that time. That's when I started saying that. And I'm saying the same thing now with our current mass shooter crisis. And yet, here's somebody that came for treatment and got a specific one-size-fits-all treatment rather than a careful neuropsychiatric assessment for a very complex set of problems. Is that person better off now because of what my profession did for them? Separate topic. We're not really getting into that so much today, though we certainly can if we need to. First up is Chef Andrew Gruel. Gruel is a food entrepreneur in Huntington Beach, California, where he is also a city councilor, founder of American Gravy Restaurant Group, hosts American Gravy on Rumble. Is that the name of the podcast? Andrew, you're going to have to tell me about that. You can follow him on X at Chef Gruel. It's Chef, Gruel. Andrew, welcome.
Thanks for having me. It's always an honor.
Did I get the name of the podcast right? Is that the one you do with your wife?
That's it. American Gravy. That's the one that, you're a proxy partner on that one.
Susan, you'll appreciate this. Poor Andrew. He's cooking away. He's going out. He's making sauces. I'm like, I can't eat that. I can't eat that. I can't eat that. He's like, no problem. No problem. I got this. I felt so guilty. I was like, I hate that. But to that point, I'm somebody with a lot of food sensitivities, and it drives me crazy that I have to say it to anybody. I don't like being that person. And yet now California is going to require all the sensitivities to put on the menu, it sounds like. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it's a new bill they're pushing through where they're requiring every single restaurant, no matter the size. This isn't a large multi-unit approach. This is anybody and everybody who's ultimately selling and serving food to list all of the allergens in every single one of their ingredients on their menu.
That is essentially not only a fool's errand, it's impossible. Because humans can react to just about anything. Any given human can have, and by the way, I'm sure they want sensitivity. People don't even know what allergy is anymore. They've lost track of what that word even means. It means a mast cell degranulation. It means runny nose. It means asthma. It means rash. It doesn't mean, oh, my tummy hurts.
Well, and on top of that is, as somebody who's tried to be very cognizant of people's allergies, especially in a commercial food environment, I'm always thinking about ways in which I can help these people and cook for them. And what I've learned the most, the biggest threat is cross-contamination. So it doesn't matter if you list every single allergen. If there's cross-contamination, it's irrelevant, right? And that's kind of where we see government stepping in, especially into the business world, is they create this framework that's going to cost us a ton of money, time, effort, energy, and it's not even going to help anybody.
And by the way, as someone with some food sensitivity, that's my thing to manage, not yours. Yeah, and I can either bring it up or not bring it up. That's up to me, but I feel bad when I do. Well, but tell us about Calico Fish House before I go any further, because speaking of food sensitivities, I love that place.
Calico Fish House, it's our family-run restaurant right on the Pacific Coast Highway in Huntington Beach, the Sunset Beach area of Huntington Beach, which is just a little bit further north towards Long Beach, Seal Beach. It's a indoor-outdoor restaurant, full bar, casual dining, but as much farm and seat to table as possible. We work directly with the fishermen, the producers, and we're featuring a lot of great. And all of our meats now are actually coming from the Wellness Farm, so we're featuring all of our Wellness Farms products as well in the restaurant. That's how much we stand behind them. So we're changing the menu frequently, and it's really kind of curated by my wife and myself and my kids, I guess you could say, and ultimately the state of California when we list the 9 allergens on the menu.
So give us more on the Wellness Farm, because you're sort of the figurehead of that. People know wellness. I've done my emergency kits here handy, but people know the wellness company from us on the medical side and on the sort of supplement and health side. But talk about the food side, because they're very proud of what's going on there. And I have not yet got a beef box. I must tell you, I feel left out. But keep going.
So the Wellness Farms is an arm of the wellness company, and essentially what they determined was, look, we've got all of these great products out there, farmers, ranchers, et cetera, and part of the reason why consumers can't access them is because they get sucked up into the supply chain. They get less than top dollar for their products when they're doing all the right work. So how can we create a new conduit or even a new supply chain where we can get these products directly to the consumers? So the Wellness Farms actually integrated into the ranches, and we're working through chicken and ultimately seafood as well. well, such that we can take on the products from these producers that are doing things the right way and distribute them directly to the consumer through the wellness company's existing framework of distribution. It is what I've been harping about for years, and how we need to create a separate supply chain, almost a parallel economy. I know that's been used a lot over the past 4 or 5 years, but it's really working now, and we can give it directly to the consumer, the best of the best.
I know the leadership went up to pick out the actual beef, the actual cows, to make sure they were the absolute highest quality. So they're coming from very carefully single-sourced, not just ranches, but animals that are being used, snout to hoofs.
Yeah, and I think that that's the important thing is that there's a lot of times where some of these companies will put out kind of the marketing jargon and say, look, this comes from a collective of farmers and ranchers, et cetera. But you're right. I mean, Foster, the CEO, the founder, and then ultimately Peter, the CEO, they did hand select these cattle, the steer. Yeah. They went to the farms and they visited hundreds of farms, actually, because I was putting them in contact with a lot of these producers, some of which wanted to be a part of the wellness farms, but they weren't able to produce enough, or they weren't able to kind of stitch into that supply chain. So we've got some really good partners here, but there's really no fluff to this. It goes directly from slaughter to the consumer. You don't get fresher meat than this. And with Dr. Ben Tapper, who's done a lot of analysis on the nutritional element of why this beef is much higher quality, and I'm kind of on the more artistry, culinary side of this, and giving everybody obviously a portfolio of recipes from which they can choose. It's really a kind of a full closed loop system.
Great. I'm going to have you talk about seafood in a second, but it just occurs to me we should talk about Bill Gates and his butter and sort of faux foods generally. I ate an Impossible Burger early on. I thought, wow, this is interesting. And then I thought, God knows what this is. But tell me about these faux things like the Bill Gates butter.
Yeah, this one definitely scares me a little bit. So what this is, it's produced by converting. So Bill Gates started this company and it's called Savor. They're based out of Chicago. They're converting carbon dioxide, green hydrogen, in some cases actually methane, and then they're working it through this kind of thermodynamic process into the same molecules that you would find in fat. So from a chemical perspective, it's similar, it's the same, right? And then they're adding back to that like sunflower lecithin and all of these other products that
seed
make
oils.
It. Yeah, there's actually no seed oils in this, I will say. Instead, they're using different additives and preservatives to kind of give it the mouthfeel, and emulsifiers, right, to give it the feel of butter. So it looks like butter, it smells like butter, but it's not butter. And what concerns me about this is, number one, where they're capturing the carbon to get this. They can actually use like carbon emissions from industrial facilities in order to create those kind of create the carbon from a chemical perspective. The most important piece that nobody is talking about with this butter is that they are using the Gras loophole to slip this through so that it gets no FDA oversight. You can determine through Gras, which is generally recognized as safe, which is something that RFK Jr. has actually been moving to eliminate for this very purpose, which is why I think they're rushing it to market. And you can say, oh, well, it's just basic ingredients found in nature, therefore it falls under this Gras loophole. And then you write your own self-affirming letter of certification. Of course, I'm going to certify myself as being healthy, and then it goes immediately to market.
I got to give this person credit. For any of you that were around in the 70s and 80s, Greg the Baritone. It's not nice to fool Mother Nature. So that's pretty good, because I always say there's no free lunch with nature. There's a price to every time you move away from it, there's almost like a Newtonian force in the other direction. So give everybody a quick primer on your seafood training through was it the Monterey or the Long Beach Aquarium, and your passion for that. And what I feel like we were going, you told me there was some movement in the right direction in terms of us sourcing our seafood properly, but explain it to people.
Yeah, I mean, as a chef, I always fell in love with seafood as the primary, center plate protein. I love the ocean, marine conservation. If I had any science in my brain, I would have been a marine biologist. But I had an opportunity in 2009 to get out of the kitchen and actually work with a nonprofit with the Aquarium of the Pacific. And we worked with the National Marine Fisheries Service and other like-minded NGOs and organizations. But essentially, we were working within the whole seafood supply chain, both domestically and internationally. And we were certifying aquaculture operations, working with scientists as well as fisheries experts to determine, number one, what types of seafood we should be eating, but furthermore, how we can get Americans to eat more seafood. We need that healthy omega-3 fatty acid profile that comes, and everything else that comes with seafood. We have the lowest per capita consumption of seafood of most developed countries in the world. And I think that personally, that's part of the problem that we face with our Western diet, where we have this imbalance of omega-6 fatty acids and omega-3 fatty acids. So what I've been preaching, I guess you could say, for years is that, number one, the United States has some of the most sustainable fisheries in the world. Actually, they have the most sustainable fisheries in the world. That is a legislative fact by virtue of the Magnuson-Stevenson Act. All of our fisheries from 0 to 200 miles off the coast, which falls in our exclusive economic zone. And it's been the engine of activity for centuries in the United States until recent decades, where overregulation and, really it is overregulation, labor issues, and international trade issues have forced us to start buying all of our seafood internationally. And that's a problem because right now, 80% of the seafood we consume in the United States is international. And it's being treated with tons of chemicals.
Weird. That's so only crazy. 2%. Every time you say that, I literally doesn't stay with me. It seems so incomprehensible that we have these sustained fisheries, we have the source, and then we go for the frozen bullshit, chemically enhanced food from somewhere else where we have no idea what's going on.
Well, or you could even now make the joke radioactive shrimp. Right? Look, we just caught it, that the shrimp that was being imported was radioactive. And I said that. And actually, when I went back and looked at the updated number, it's 1% or less of all of our imported seafood that gets inspected by the FDA. So I'm actually surprised that we caught this to begin with. And what they were saying was the only reason they caught it was because they were picking up some kind of detection activity by virtue of the storage container, not the seafood itself. So it was almost serendipitous that they found out that it existed, and therefore it was through the seafood. And that's why I've harped on the need for domestic consumption to go up, not just for the purposes of eating more healthy seafood, but for national safety. Because ultimately, it's going to become a bioengineered weapon that comes in through a food source. And what's the number one food source? Wow. Seafood.
Oh my goodness. I hadn't even thought, my brain doesn't go there. But I guess now that you've been on a city council, you start to think about diabolical manipulations by government. How's that experience been?
It's been wonderful because we have a lot of like-minded folks here on city council. Now, we disagree on a lot of different stuff, but there is a genuine desire to actually problem solve a lot of the issues that we're facing as a city. But that forces us to also understand what's coming down from Sacramento and the insanity. And ultimately, how do we put firewalls up to prevent Huntington Beach from being kind of infected by this insane bug coming out of Sacramento, where they're not thinking about what's good for the people of California. They're thinking about what's good for their partners and their own pocketbooks. The first thing that I did as a city council member, we actually found some land that was available to the city, and all we had to do was go to the county and get it deeded back over to the city. And we're now using that land to set up a multi-trophic integrated aquaculture system. So we're setting up a huge community garden that's going to have multi-trophic aquaculture. It's going to be available to the city. It's going to be a public project. It's not going to cost us really any money at all. We'll probably be able to get some public funds, but we're going to show people how they can get closer to their environment and actually understand where their food comes from.
Well, and this is something that people don't know about Huntington Beach, at least here in California, is the estuaries there are responsible, I think, it seems like to me, most of the seabirds, it seems like that's where they would go. And I've noticed we've had some problems. I watch the populations go up and down of mammals and birds, and I always know what's happening. You saw that the tape rolled in here where I was talking about how the stools and pee and vomit from the homeless population just gets hosed into the LA River. So you have essentially the city the size of Pasadena excrement going directly into the ocean without treatment, without sewage treatment. And of course that affects the well-being of the animals and the birds and the mammals especially. I'm imagining the fish as well, no?
100%. People don't realize how powerful the biodynamic nature of the marine ecosystem, especially the coastal marine ecosystem, is, right? And you would think that in a state that's got the California Coastal Commission and CARB and all these other, single letter agencies, that we would have the cleanest oceans, but we actually have the dirtiest oceans. We also have the dirtiest cities. A report just came out yesterday, the top 10 dirtiest cities in America, and 4 of them are in Southern California, Los Angeles being the first. So it's
LA's
very
probably going to get the rattiest too. We're number 2, but I think we're going to be number 1 this year for rats, which is where we're getting the typhus and the plague and all that nonsense that's coming in. And predictably, I picked it 6 years ago. It's just not something that could go otherwise. If people go, how could this happen in a modern city? If you allow medieval conditions to prevail. That's exactly what happens. You get medieval diseases come in when medieval conditions prevail, and people die at the same rate as they did back in medieval times if you don't treat them with modern medicine. But back to what is swept into the ocean. Adam Carolla, our mutual friend, put a video up. Oh, there you go. Little did I know that it was a viral epidemic that was going to sweep in, but he was put a video up talking about how he couldn't saw a single board in half because of some environmental potential of there being contamination of the ocean. It had to be done within a certain number of miles from the ocean, and yet every house at the Pacific Palisades that burned down was built with treated wood, and all that flew directly into the ocean. Thousands and thousands of metric tons of that nonsense. It's because they seem unable to understand policy and how good intentions lead to bad outcomes. They can't think things through.
Well, it's all performative, and that's what I'm learning being in politics. Is so much of this is performative. And a lot of people, you know what else I noticed too? And I have to force myself to not become, kind of conditioned to do the same thing is that everyone's thinking about their next race. They're always campaigning. So they don't have a long-term vision when it comes to managing public resources because they just want to get reelected. And who cares what happens thereafter? And I always put my citizen hat on when I'm looking at things through the dice. But I got to tell you, what's funny about the point that Adam made is that the unintended consequences of all of the government action. In the 2020 wildfire season, the fires themselves emitted 130 million metric tons of carbon, okay? Between 2003 and 2019, all of the regulations in California saved us, ready for this? 60 million metric tons. And it cost us billions and billions of dollars in changes in manufacturing and the cost of the regulations. But in one fire season, we almost doubled that because of negligence when it comes to preventing wildfires just strictly through cleaning up our brush.
And forestry management and water management and preparedness, absolutely 100%. I brought that up to that billionaire guy, Steve something, who put that crazy policy in place that California has to be all electric vehicles by 2030 or something. I said, well, okay, I put those numbers in front of him. I said, why aren't you, if you really want to do something about carbon emissions, why, if that's really your motivation, why aren't you fixing the number one source? Number one. By orders of magnitude. That's just 1 year you're talking about. We have these things year upon year. No, unbelievable. Okay, I got to wrap up with one last topic, and that is gerrymandering. What is going to happen to Huntington Beach if gerrymandering goes through in California?
Well, Huntington Beach right now is a solidly conservative, but moderately conservative district, right? Part of California District 47. We're going to now get lumped into most of Long Beach so that we're going to be stuck with the same policies as Long Beach, which is an entirely different city, entirely different demographics with entirely different needs, right? You got to understand Long Beach is behind a break wall. We are open oceans. Our sand restoration and replenishment needs are completely different than Long Beach. It will force us to fight amongst ourselves within the district. Number one, it's not good and nobody's getting represented that way by way of these new kind of Pollock-style gerrymander maps. But I need to tell you something here that people don't realize. This isn't just happening on a state/federal level. There are lawsuits throughout the entire state, most of which are being won, to redistrict within cities as well. So we're like Huntington Beach is being pushed right now to redistrict within the city to break up any of the political majorities. And when you redistrict even within a city, you actually force people within the city to fight against each other district to district. So it's a very scary proposition that does absolutely nothing for the people of California.
How are you going to do without your great city attorney, who's now the second in command under Harmeet Dillon at the Department of Justice?
Well, you know what? His expertise is definitely being utilized on a federal level, and we appreciate that. We have a wonderful city attorney right now, Mike Vigliotto, who was formerly the deputy city attorney. So he worked under Michael for years and years, and he is an absolutely brilliant attorney. Michael's still vested in Huntington Beach, so we get his wise wisdom on a consult basis.
Andrew, great to see you. We appreciate your service for this great city of Huntington Beach. I have family that live in and around there. And it's all we got. I'm still trying to figure out a way we can end up on Gutfeld at the same time. They seem to be intentionally like separating us, but we'll figure it out, at least in New York at the same time. But any event, say hi to Lauren for us, and we'll talk to you very soon.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always an honor. Appreciate it.
You got it. And Calico Fish House, if you live anywhere near Huntington Beach, as God is my witness.
Sunset Beach.
Well, if you live anywhere near Huntington.
It's like North Huntington.
Right. If you live anywhere near Huntington Beach, as God is my witness, you should have no trouble getting to Calico Fish House, or even if you live in Long Beach.
It's really good.
It is.
It's right next to Seal Beach if you're in Seal Beach.
It is on the Coast Highway. It is ridiculously good. Am I overstating it?
No, sir.
Yeah, it's ridiculously good. So and,
You're right. You're right.
The only reason we don't go there is we feel guilty. He treats us so well. It's the only resistance we have to go in there.
They have outdoor
we'd go every
seating,
day.
And it's beautiful weather.
Yeah,
it's nice.
It's phenomenal. All right. So my next guest is Art Kleinschmidt. Art, we're going to talk a little bit about homeless and many things, but I want to get an update on what's going on at SAMHSA. You can follow at SAMHSA. SAMHSA Gov is on X.
SAMHSA Gov.
You're right. It's pronounced SAMHSA. SAMHSA.
Doesn't sound like that, though.
I know. SAMHSA Gov. Instagram, SAMHSA Gov. And SAMHSA.gov is where you can go to the website. Art, welcome. Congratulations on your position there. And good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you again. Very honored to be on your show. Very appreciative, and I'm very appreciative of all the work you've done in this area, in this field.
How's your knee?
It's sore. I took the Uber in today, so it was a little rough. I'm almost 3 weeks out of my surgery, so total knee replacement, but I'm hanging.
Yeah. So the knees are tough. Those are tough operations. It'll get your attention. It's sort of surprising.
It does.
So I'm not telling you something you don't know, but I want to know. So just before you were appointed, I was sort of involved in the RFK Jr. world, and people were talking about this position and who it should be. And when they mentioned you, I was like, oh my God, please, please, please. There's so many people like you and Bhattacharya and people in positions that to me are dream people in the positions I want them in. But they were sort of, what would you do for SAMHSA? And I said, what would I do? What would I do? I'd go shut it down. So I want you to tell me what you've learned about the organization from where you sit and what it does, and convince me that would have been a bad plan.
Well, right now we are the nation's leader in mental health and addiction services for the federal government. This is my second tour of duty at SAMHSA, so I got a crash course last time. I came directly from working in the clinical environment, working with individuals with serious mental illness and severe drug addiction issues. So that was my first time. So you can have content knowledge, and then you got to learn how to actually work in the federal government and how that works. So right now we're in the process of doing an overhaul. I changed some of the direction of SAMHSA to the point that I want to focus on the actual American people and not so much on just feeding the federal system. So part of that is a person I've worked on a long time on a multidisciplinary team. So I take, instead of staffing a particular patient, we're staffing America sort of as it is, and finding where the treatment needs to be delivered. So in that context, I've already sort of been in Kensington, working with the folks in Philadelphia. I spoke to, people in Los Angeles County, Catherine Barger, and a number of people. I've been to sort of New Orleans. And so what I really been sort of concentrating on is, it's not enough to say somebody's out there suffering with mental illness, drug addiction, co-occurring disorders. It's like, how do you reach that person, get them from point A, suffering with a disease, right? right? Getting them into treatment. And the other thing is I'm really focused on like backdoor step down level care. So to that effect, we just put out, a supplement of $43 million to actually allow a struggling population of people between 18 and 24 to get funding to go into recovery housing. And this is recovery housing for sobriety. So we're moving away from, like, say, harm reduction activities and focusing on sobriety and moving people from addiction, mental illness into life of self-sufficiency. And that is a departure from the last.
Oh my God, is it ever? And it's such a breath of fresh air, because in the past they took the position that that was impossible. And if that was impossible, why are you sitting here? And why did I spend 30 years doing that for thousands of people? If it was impossible, I guess I was deluded. I was having hallucinations that people were getting better and returning to their lives.
And there was also
it's so disgusting.
Yeah, and there was actually a very reluctance. I sort of been in some discussions here about bringing sobriety into recovery. They, for the past at least 4 years, they diminished the concept of sobriety and recovery. And you almost can't get from point A to point B unless you stop doing self-destructive activities, right? So, and if you want to look at recovery as a miracle, when somebody gets into recovery, learning sobriety, they take all their problems, all their shame, what they feel is something they need to sort of hide from, say their weaknesses or their other sort of things. And you could get into recovery and start turning that into an asset, right? So that's why I refer to recovery as a miracle.
RFK Jr., you guys are living, breathing proof. And Michael, who I'm going to speak to, Anthony rather, who I'm going to speak to in a few minutes, you guys are all living proof of the miracle of sobriety, which is not... It's anybody who does the work will get there eventually. It's just, you got to do the work. Do you know who John Kelly is?
I do. Yes,
because he would be a great asset for you. He'd be a great asset for you guys to help bring this.
He's done a lot of work. Yes.
Good. He has all the science that shows the importance of this approach and the cost effectiveness of this approach. So anyway, I don't want to preach about that. I want to try to get off that point. But how do you help California, which is the one I'm most familiar with, which is a state that will not grant anybody a status of gravely disabled, which used to be how people were brought in for care. They were so sick, you just brought them in. No gravely disabled, insufficient number of psychiatrists, insufficient number of psychiatric beds, very woefully few residential beds. What do we do with this state?
Well, we need to start to actually look at this in real terms. A lot of times they want to say, oh, it's stigma to do this, stigma to do this. But actually, the most stigma-inducing thing is to allow people to live in those sort of degradation, that sort of self... Art,
I want to interrupt you. When you were in your disease, did you feel stigma? And if not, what were you interested in?
Getting high. That's really
correct.
Sort of
that is every drug addict I know. That is every drug addict I know. No drug addict has ever come to me. I've treated 10,000. No one ever said, oh, I can't get treatment because I feel stigmatized. Ever. What they said was, I need more drugs. Period. That's the disease. That's how it works. And the family may still stigmatized. I get that.
If you're catering to that disease.
This is crazy.
That disease. Yeah, you're right. It's absolutely crazy, right? Stigma's never a bridge too far when it comes to getting your drugs. Stigma only...
Of course not.
You know what I mean? But if you cater to stigma too much and allow people to suffer in the street, what's more degrading than that? So it's actually sort of time to get real about a lot of these things. Now, I know California is unique with the challenges, and unfortunately, a lot of California's problems are related to policy. And it's going to be...
All of it is, Art, it all is that. 100% of it. We could take care of these people, no problem. I mean, not all of it. Let's face it, we need some beds, we need more psychiatrists. But like, I've been in Florida a lot these days, and Florida has some wonderful programs. I'm amazed at what they can do. And so Florida, I know it's possible in the United States.
Florida's doing it the right way. We do have an executive order that SAMHSA was heavily involved in, but the president sort of signed. And it's all about getting people off the streets into treatment, into a life of self-sufficiency. So with the executive order, we will be more empowered. I am working to get, more California, like more AOT type of treatment where people with serious mental illness could actually sort of be structured to get the sort of the help they need. And I also want to start putting in more recovery housing and more supports for those individuals who also have serious mental illness, co-occurring type of disorders.
You and I are going to have to work. I was talking to Oz the other day, and he said that the addiction piece is going to, the RFK Jr. obviously is very committed to recovery. He's a recovering addict himself. And he got sober at a residential program of a sort of a work farm kind of situation. He sent many people there. It's inexpensive. It's, sobriety based, whatnot. But you and I are going to have to get involved in helping him understand what it's going to take to get people into condition where they can go to places like that, and what's needed to put, to get people, what kind of services are going to be needed to provide enough to get them to that place where they can.
I'm in agreement with that. I've also, like I said, I went to Baton Rouge. I'm from Louisiana, New Orleans, but I went with like a peer community that went out and physically intervened on some of the homeless people there and got them ready to sort of get the bus ticket to go home to her family and that sort of a thing. But you're 100% right. It begins at the first phase of intervention. You could always say there's a treatment center over there, but then how do you move somebody to point A to point B? And then how do you close the door to where they can actually start getting a life of self-sufficiency within a structured environment?
I don't want to bring somebody into this conversation who's not here, but your wife knew how to do that. And I hope she's advising on how we create sort of law enforcement structure to help with all that.
She is. Yeah, she's very sort of committed to the cause, as you know. And she's very involved and very supportive of all of this. And she's been actually helping me with my knee a tremendous amount. So there's that too.
I'm aware.
But the executive order, we're working in conjunction with law enforcement to actually sort of help move people into a life of purpose and meaning.
So I'm going to take a break in just a second here. We're going to bring Art back in a minute, but just know that Art and I were planning to walk Skid Row much the way I did with Emily Campagno in that video you saw there with Reverend Bales, if we can get him. And your wife texted me one day, because you thought you were still going to make this to walk, right this month sometime.
Yeah, I was a little optimistic.
Dude.
I wasn't going to.
He goes, dude. I was like, I don't think he'll get the message soon enough. Don't worry.
Into dreams, right? So.
Yeah, of course. I have the same problem. All right, we'll take a little break. Art Kleinschmidt in here. Do you want people to go to SAMHSA.gov? Is there anywhere else you want people to go to find more information?
SAMHSA.gov is great. You can go to HHS as well. Like I said, as you know, the Secretary is very supportive of our efforts here.
Yeah. So stay right there, Art. You all stay right there as well. We're going to be right back. Pay attention to all these. These are all people we stand by. This is all about optimal health and wellness. Take a look. I'm excited to bring you a new product, a new supplement, Fatty. I take it. I make Susan take it. My whole family takes it. This comes out of, believe it or not, dolphin research. The Navy maintains a fleet of dolphins, and a brilliant veterinarian recognized that these dolphins sometimes developed a syndrome identical to our Alzheimer's disease. Those dolphins were deficient in a particular fatty acid. She replaced the fatty acid, and they didn't get the Alzheimer's. Humans have the same issue, and we are more deficient in this particular fatty acid than ever before. And a simple replacement of this fatty acid called C15 will help us prevent these syndromes. It's published in a recent journal called Metabolites. It's a new nutritional C15, pentadecanoic acid it's called. The deficiency that we are developing for C15 creates something called the cellular fragility syndrome. This is the first nutritional deficiency syndrome to be discovered in 75 years and may be affecting us in many ways, and as many as 1 in 3 of us. This is an important breakthrough. Take advantage of it. Go to fatty15.com/Dr. Drew to receive 15% off a 90-day starter kit subscription, or use code Dr. Drew at checkout for that 15% off, or just go to our website, drdrew.com/fatty15. Weight loss and gum loss, the Wellness Company's got you covered with new products. Drop. It's for aggressive appetite control. It comes in easy-to-use liquid drops. No prescription, no painful shot. It is an oral peptide called retatrutide. It actually mimics the way the body naturally loses weight, and it is designed to support faster, more focused weight loss when combined with healthy eating and exercise. And Smile is a breakthrough fluoride-free peptide toothpaste. It gently whitens and reverses gum loss, actually rebuilding tissue at its source with a proprietary blend of peptides, remineralizers, and soothing botanicals. Go to drdrew.com/TWC for more information on Drop and Smile, and check out another new and innovative solution for hair loss called Roots while you're there. That's drdrew.com/TWC for 10% off. What's so special about Paleo Valley's grass-fed and finished bone broth and superfood bars? Well, everything. All are delicious, high in nutrients, low in calories, and contain nothing artificial. Co-founder Autumn Smith on what goes into every superfood bar.
So we have bone broth protein powder, and then we've added other superfoods, cashew butter, we have spirulina in there, acerola, broccoli powder, kale, blueberries. And so it really is kind of just an infusion of superfoods with every bite.
And then there's the extraordinary bone broth protein made with an ancestral approach that boosts our collagen intake.
Collagen is something that's gone by the wayside in our modern diet because we don't eat nose to tail anymore, but it was something we ate a lot of, and it has so many benefits. So if you have sagging skin, joint pain, gut issues, your decreased bone mineral density, slow to heal your wounds, slow recovery, these are all things that collagen can dramatically improve. If we're not giving our body the building blocks to produce it, we just age more rapidly. It also improves sleep, improves blood sugar control. So it's essentially like the Swiss Army knife of healthy aging.
Like I said, Paleo Valley's bone broth is something special. Make Paleo Valley part of your longevity regimen. Go to drdrew.com/Paleo Valley for 20% off when you subscribe and 15% off your first order. That is drdrew.com/Paleo Valley.
Dr. Drew said the best way to quit drinking is by going cold turkey, and he's a doctor, so why would you question doctors?
Dr. Drew called me unfixable.
We are truly blessed to have the people that support this program. They're all such high quality, and I hope you'll support them as well. Art Kleinschmidt from SAMHSA, where he is the director presently, samhsa.gov, is where you can find out more. Let me just see if there's anything I've left out here, Art, from... So what do we do? Let me ask you this. How do you, in California, we have this delusion that putting people with serious mental illness and brain diseases of all type magically get well when you put them in a house or in four walls. What do we do with those guys? How's the government going to kind of address that?
Well, we actually have that in the executive order. We're getting addressing housing first. That's more of a HUD issue, but that's part of why SAMHSA released the money to subsidize the state opioid response grant with recovery housing. Recovery housing, has sobriety requirements, and it's where somebody leaves treatment, has the supports that they need to get on to self-sufficiency. Now, I've seen just what you're talking about. I worked at a treatment center where for severe cases, but some who have means, and when a client was able to avoid a recovery house referral and get an apartment in a neighborhood, we always ended up with a new crack house in the neighborhood or another shooting gallery that people would go to. So
some dead patients.
What's that?
And some dead patients.
You do, yeah, exactly. 100%, and that's unfortunate, but that's what would happen. So that's a policy that we're actually removing, and we worked. It's in the executive order to rid of that. And you're also, when you create like a housing first type of policy, you're allowing people to go untreated. You're almost mandating that they can't be treated, and that's not. That's another one of those enabling type of activities.
In this county, you're mandating it. You don't dare. You're kidnapping if you try to treat somebody.
Well, that's really unfortunate. And I don't know, they must have a perverse view on compassion. That's not compassionate. The compassionate thing is to see somebody with a disease and actually sort of treat them.
Yeah. That's right. So let's think about it. So here's what it is. First of all, you have hospitals without walls that are being run by social workers who are not trained to do this. They're wonderful, but they're not trained to take care of these severely mentally ill patients. The most severe psychiatric cases you can possibly have are on our streets. They are not trained for that. And doctors and nurses are not allowed to interact in this open air hospital. This is what you have in California. And it's so mind-boggling. And I talked to a kid on my podcast a few months ago who wrote a book called Crooked Smile. And he was telling me he's now a carpenter. He's made it off. He's in recovery. He's doing great. And but he said at the end, he was being given his heroin, given his rigs, given his fentanyl by the city and the county, and then patted on the back and told the following. He said by every person he encountered at the end, don't worry about this. You'll get better once we get communism in place. Can you imagine? Yeah,
I do imagine, and that's should be governmental malpractice. You're actually feeding somebody sort of a disease. I mean, would they do that for somebody give donuts to diabetics? They don't generally sort of do that. And if you want to talk about stigma inducing, that is it right there. You're actually working to destroy somebody's life. I don't see how they get to the term of compassion, right? So you're minimizing somebody's ability to be human plus their ability to accomplish and achieve for the sole purpose of, I guess, their own self-gratification. But that is, and to get back to your earlier question, so why do we need SAMHSA or want to be burned down? But we have an opportunity now to use a federal resource to start trying to change the culture on those disastrous policies.
Yes, you just having you in this position gave me hope, and now hearing what you're saying about what you guys are doing gives me not just hope, like it fills my lungs with air. My heart swells with it. I do believe you're going to run into a buzzsaw here in California, but get ready to fight that fight and let's go do it.
We're still going to go
thousands of lives.
I'm going to go look at the Tenderloin, and then we're going to go to LA. And the other thing, I do have a question. Good. So like I spoke to Superintendent Catherine Barger, and she had her crew, and they're talking about Los Angeles. But when you go to the websites of all these NGOs and organizations in California, they say what a great job they're doing. So is there like a true disconnect in reality there?
Yes, profound. And in fact, even when you talk to I've been interacting a little bit with some of the housing people, and they go, "Oh, we're doing such a great job getting people in housing." But once they're in, it turns out we're not done. I'm like, no shit, you're not done. You've done nothing. You've done exactly nothing. You spent a lot of money and you've lined a lot of pockets, but you've not done anything for these people who are dying on the street. So when you get here, we'll do a full comprehensive review of all this. You'll get a sense. It is disgusting what is allowed to go on. Not disgusting from the standpoint of it being, which it is, and it's contaminating everything and causing typhus outbreaks and plague outbreaks. And we're the number one rodent, rat population in the country because they're doing nothing.
I just saw an article to that effect just earlier this morning about the rodent issue that's going on.
Well, don't worry, because California, in its infinite wisdom of do-gooding and compassion, has taken away you are not allowed to legally use anything that kills rodents. You're not allowed to. It's against the law now. So we have typhus. It's increasing rapidly. We have plague now. Here we go. So I don't know. It was predictable. I did it in 2019. I
remember. Yeah, you were one of the first guys bringing that up. I remember that. When you were doing that. So it's interesting. So I'm going to look forward to doing that, working with you, going out there and seeing it. Yeah. Like I said, I toured Kensington as well just recently. So I'll be looking forward to getting out there to California and seeing what we can accomplish.
This will be great. I'll be inspired I'll be great to see you, but I'll be inspired to hear what you have to say. And you'll be walking on a new knee. It'll be a lot better. Trust me.
He's taking security with you.
I look forward to that.
We usually take what's his name?
Reverend Bales.
Well, Reverend Bales we take, but there's a cop that used to work the beat there that usually goes with us too.
Okay, good.
Who's
because it's not what it used to be. It's rougher down there.
It's very gang infested. There's a lot of, because the gangs don't want it undone either. They charge rent for that. They actually charge rent for the sidewalk space. Are you aware of that?
No, I didn't know that. I used to talk when I was
all the women.
a group from Venice Beach was talking about how gang infested it was out there. I did see Venice Beach a number of years ago, and it was a mess. But I don't know how it looks today.
Well, we will find out. Last time I was there, they were trafficking the women, all the women eventually, and were charging. They were taking these people are all on general relief, so they get disability checks, and it goes to the gangs for the space and the drugs. So good times, everybody. This is a genius setup that our city has. But hopefully, Catherine Barger will go with us.
Okay, cool.
That'd be good. I'll see what I can do.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, and I appreciate all your support. And like I said, you've been a real pioneer on this issue, so I'm very appreciative of all the work that you've done.
Thank you, Art, but pioneer is the wrong word. I'm not a pioneer. I'm a time traveler. I'm an old-timey. I'm a time traveler. I'm here to tell you I've done this for 40 years, and I know what works, and I know what doesn't work. I'm not a pioneer. The pioneers were the guys I learned from, but I learned from them 40 years ago, and I saw it work and how it works, and I've done it and done it and done it.
I'll change that to a leader. About that, we'll say you've been a big leader on this, so I very much appreciate it.
I'll take it.
Okay.
I'll take it.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on.
Anytime, and you listen to your wife on that niche. She's got better judgment than you or I.
Pioneer makes you sound old.
I think she does. Yeah. And if I don't believe her, she'll let me know that you guys, man.
She may call me too. Talk to Art. So we'll see. What's that, Susan?
All right, Dr. Drew. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I look forward to getting together soon.
100%. You got it. Susan, you were trying to ring in with something?
Said pioneer makes you sound old.
Time traveler doesn't make me sound old? So, I guess I could be a young person coming forward in time that way. If I've been in a time machine, but the time traveled has had its way with me. All right, so now I'm going to welcome Anthony Brown. Anthony was actually walking Skid Row with me that day with Emily Campagno and Reverend Bales. Anthony has moved to Ohio, where he is actually making a difference by building a large facility. He wrote the book, Park Bench to Park Avenue. And he's got a great story. You can follow him on AnthonyHowardBrown.com. Also on X, Brown_Manor. Brown Manor is the facility he's building. Instagram is Brown.Manor, it looks like to me. And YouTube, Anthony Howard Brown 9107. Okay, Anthony, welcome.
Hey, Dr. Drew, how are you?
Good to see you. So, on that little day of walking around, do you remember the name of the cop we were walking with? Do you remember his name?
I do not, but I do remember that day because we were spotting drug transactions and things of that nature.
No, we weren't spotting them. You were spotting them. And I was like, how the hell did you see that? You're like, okay, this one's got the meth and they're lined up over here for her and he's going to transport. You saw things, they were invisible to me. So tell me what that was.
Well, I know my kind. I've been out there in the streets for a long time, from 14 to 37, doing drugs and hustling, and being around Skid Row, I'm just back in my natural environment. And so it's easy for me to point out like-minded behavior. And so I just recognize it and say, okay, well, that's what's going on there and that's what's going on there. And, go from there.
I remember it because you said something actually startling about one woman. And I'm not sure if you're prepared to repeat what you told me, but, let's just say she had inspissated some meth, which is a word for taking internally.
Yeah, she was putting it in her purse.
She was putting it in her purse.
Yeah.
And she didn't carry that purse. That purse was part of her body. And I'm like, Anthony, how did you know that? He goes, yeah, she's got it up there. And these are the guys that are trafficking and bringing it to these guys. And I was like, wow, that was unbelievable.
Yeah, it's quite a system.
I will never forget it. But you also have one of the greatest, I love when addiction makes us do funny things. It's because it does the funniest stuff sometimes. And part of your recovery story to me is one of the great you got to find the humor in all these things. But tell them what happened to you after multiple times in prison, getting picked up on this one street corner, well, different street corners, like eventually, ultimately. And what did you decide was what was wrong? Something was wrong. You were clearly, something was up with your life.
Yeah, well, as I shared numerous times, my addiction, and it is a disease, it just caused me to do the same thing over and over and expect a different result. And I would go to a place in Costa Mesa, Harvard Wilson, and try to sell drugs. And it didn't dawn on me that there's not too many African Americans hanging out at 2:00 in the morning at the same spot. And so I would get arrested at Harvard Wilson, go to jail, think, okay, something has to change. Okay, my best solution, maybe I can hide it in my sock, go back to Harvard Wilson, get arrested, go back to prison again, think something's got to change. Okay, I'm going to hold it in my hand. Well, I'm an addict. I get too loaded. I forget it's in my hand, and they picked me up on Harvard Wilson. And, until finally I really got smart and said, okay, I'll move 1 block south to Harvard and Victoria. And that's just the insanity of the disease of addiction. And so going through all of that,
it is.
And finally, a cop had to ask me if I needed some help. I didn't even know I was, I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know, what was right. And so after he asked if I wanted some help, he had a friend put me in treatment, got introduced to, the 12-step way of living. And here I am 26 years later, and, I get to be a nurse practitioner.
Yeah, well, let me. I want to gloat about you a little bit. Anthony is not just a nurse; he was a director of nursing for a large psychiatric facility, and then since he moved to build his manor, which I want you to talk about in just a second, he became a nurse practitioner. Now he's seeing people on an outpatient basis. He's a highly, highly, highly skilled professional, and to go from where you'd been living so chronically to who and where you are now, to me, is like, we need to bottle that. You need to show that wherever you can, because that's what I wish for everybody who's on the street, everybody who's suffering with addiction, and you are living proof that it is possible.
Yeah, and it is. And what's fascinating, and I love the guy that went on prior, is that whole stigma thing. Stigma really doesn't affect the addict. It doesn't, but it affects the individual that has the stigma, because you don't want to offer as quality help to that person that's out there. And so one of the things I do, since I'm so open about my life, is I want to break that stigma. That person on the street is well worth the investment. I mean, look, I'm a poster child, but life still happens. And, this whole thing about, housing first, now has to be housing plus. I believe that, you can't think your way into better living. You have to live your way into better thinking. And so
we just call that structured living environment. We just need a structured treatment environment. And so tell us about Brown Manor. What are you doing there?
Brown Manor, we're doing good. We're still in the construction phase. I'm an example. I got a job, got my life in order, made a ton of money, and then I took all my money and put it in this abandoned house, which is great because I need people to see that a person who was homeless can do bigger things. I mean, I thought being a nurse practitioner was one thing, but putting together and structuring a living program is a whole different animal, but it's well worth it because I get to see people people see this from two different perspectives. I have the homeless people or the person who has severe mental illness or substance use get to see a guy rising up the ladder. And then on the other side of society, they get to see a guy who can achieve things and become a professional. And they want to support that. I know out here in Ohio, people like Dan Zachman, Bill Freitag, Benita Shoulders, all of them are supporting what we're doing because it's a community thing. And the beauty is people are starting to believe that we all can make a difference. And so we're all pitching in, we're all doing this deal. And a Brown Manor, I just love it. It's taken forever because I'm broke, but that's all right. I believe in miracles.
You're getting. I feel like you're about to get some real traction. I mean, you've got the attention of some. Is that a state senator that you have attention of, or is he a federal senator?
No, he's a state senator around here. It's Mark Romachuk, and he's a pretty cool dude, And I'm not political. I am not. I have no clue on how to do. I mean, I'm barely learning how to talk to you, But I'm learning how to get along in certain environments because, again, transitioning from where I come from until to this life. I always called it Squaresville, but getting able to navigate this part of the world can be challenging. It is, and it's really fascinating because I will always be an addict, Dr. Drew, period. That'll never change. I have that genetic makeup. I can't take one of nothing. And so having to navigate those feelings and that thinking while being in this new challenging environment can be difficult because life hasn't stopped. Life still continues. It's just different levels that I get to exercise my skills in and the different stressors and things like that. So working with different people on government levels and even on the city level can be challenging. I mean, putting Brown Manor together and having to learn how to go through codes and permits. I mean, I thought that, hey, I can just buy a house and put up some drywall and everything will be crazy. No, it doesn't work that way. No, you have to go. You have to go through the city process and get permits and wait until they're done. And patience sometimes isn't good for a person with an addictive mentality. I want it done yesterday, and that's not the way reality works. And so being able to navigate that and having a support system and an outlet so that I just don't think that my only option is just to give up, isolate, and maybe anesthetize myself because it's going to feel better. I don't do that.
No. Please don't do that. we will have lost an important asset if you do that. But we need to get you hooked up with Art Kleinschmidt. I feel like the two of you guys could, change the world. And who knows, SAMHSA may have some grants or something, right? You said did you tell me you'd written a grant recently?
Yeah, I wrote my first grant. And I'm super excited about it. And I've discovered, and a lot of people may not realize this, but you have way more power within yourself than you even know. I know you tell me this all the time. It's like my inside thinking doesn't match my outside reality. I sat down and I read and I studied and I figured out how to write a grant. And so I wrote my first grant. And I'm super excited just to even see where it goes, And the beauty of this is even if I don't get what I'm asking for, at least I have the knowledge and the skills on how to do it, and then just continue to practice until I get better at it. So yeah, I wrote my first grant. I would love to meet Art and get involved with some stuff on the SAMHSA level and, just keep on going, because the solution to homelessness is how do you change the individual that's out in the streets concept of what their reality is. That's the solution. It's not about self-esteem or self-worth. You can take away the alcohol and drugs, and you're still going to have that thinking or that belief system. Because I've discovered that even working with some people around here, I can take them out the park, and the minute they get bored, they go right back to the park. And so if we can get people to understand that you're an individual that's just navigating a complex life imperfectly, then you have a better chance, instead of just saying, okay, I'm going to take you here, dust you off, give you a few medications and all is well. No, it's a cognitive behavioral structure, and that's what Brown Manor is all about.
Well, and will you be doing some of the clinical stuff there too, or supervision at least?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I figured.
Yeah. Because I've been through and I've seen a lot of different systems out there. I mean, I managed a psychiatric hospital. I've been in recovery homes.
Yeah.
I see all of that. But the thing is, I have lived experience. I understand. I have empathy. And so being there and teaching and letting people know that, hey, I'm not just a president, I'm a client, And so, I'm definitely going to have hands-on. I look forward to it. And I get super excited over stuff like this.
Susan, remember when Anthony was managing the hospital during COVID, had a big COVID outbreak in his psych hospital? Oh my God, that was crazy.
Yeah, that was bananas, but everything's great. And, one thing I've learned too, and this can help anybody, whenever you have difficulties, troubles, just journal that stuff down, get it out your head. And that's what made me come up with that book. And the same thing with my second book, The Ghetto Practitioner. I just journal everything that's going on because life threw me a few curveballs and I still made it. I know I called you several times going, oh my God, how am I going to get through this? And you're like, just breathe, and because, this is my anniversary right now of first discovering Seymour. This time last year,
So Suddenly Seymour, I wrote down. Suddenly, do you know the Little Shop of Horrors, the song Suddenly Seymour? Well, this happened to Anthony. Go ahead.
Yeah. This time last year, I was getting prepped to have surgery because I got diagnosed with colon cancer. And talking about having an addict throwing a curveball, and I didn't know what to do. I'm sitting here praying. It's like, I've been through substance abuse, I've been through homelessness, I've been through addiction, I've been in jails, and I got my life in order, and all of a sudden, whammo, you have cancer. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do? My mind went all over the place, and I called Dr. Drew. I'm like, I'm freaking out. And it's like, just breathe and take the next indicated step. And because of your guidance, I was able to make it. And it's really interesting because I journaled through that whole thing in the Ghetto Practitioner, that in my new book. And I needed an outlet because I can't drink or use, I can't fight, I can't act out. I still got to go to work, and I'm stressing now that I have cancer. And I laugh because a year ago today is when I was doing prep to go into the hospital to deal with this. And here I am a year later, and I feel good. I just seen my doctor the other day, and it's like, if life can throw me these curveballs and I still don't drink and use, and I still want to go forth and help people, then, anybody can. Anybody can.
Well, it's also much clearer that you must, right? Yeah. So the mandate is clear. Well, Anthony, listen, I love you. I love what you're doing. Please tell people where they can go to support you. There's a lot of people listening, and if we could reproduce what you do 1,000 times, the world would be a better place. But go ahead. I'm not going to subject you to that. But go ahead. Tell people where they should go to support you.
They can go to my website, anthonyhowardbrown.com. We have a nonprofit now, the Jeanette Jones Safford Foundation. You can go there and donate to Brown Manor. You can just Google Brown Manor. You can reach me. I'm on Facebook. I'm all over the place. And so, if you're in Ohio and you want to see abandoned 1916 mansion come to life, come to Mansfield, Ohio. And you get to see this whole thing. But that's all of my connections and contacts, and just buy the book. Buy from Park Bench to Park Avenue. My information is there. The Ghetto Practitioner, the information is going to be in there. Whatever it is, because all proceeds go towards helping somebody else become me, and I'm more than happy to be there to guide. And so just all help can do. I'm not afraid to ask for a handout, so that I can help other people get a hand up. So here I am.
All right, my friend. We'll talk soon. Take care.
All right. Thanks, Dr. Drew.
You got it. So that was an interesting survey of kind of, obviously we're talking about addiction and about failed policies in California, but in terms of walking away with a little bit of inspiration, all three of these guys were terribly inspirational in spite of these roadblocks that we are finding, needless roadblocks, is what's so frustrating. From our government, but you see what can be done, what should be done, and how it can be done. And these guys are all three living examples of it. Now you got to make sure they're all talking to each other because they're more powerful as an army. All right, let's put up what's coming up here, Caleb. I think Tuesday we've got Chloe Carmichael coming in. It's a reschedule to talk about people falling in love with their bots. Susan, that should be interesting. These AI bots, people are falling in love with them. Chloe's going to come back and talk to us about that. Roseanne's going to come in with Allison Morrow. Salty Cracker, Zach Levy on the 16th. Gabe, I wrote the pronunciation of his name, El Taeb, who's a cartoonist, I guess a comedic cartoonist or celebrity cartoonist.
Yeah, so hopefully, I hope we can do 9-3. We don't get jury duty.
Yeah, we have allegedly jury duty that week, so we'll see if that's a real thing or not.
I'll host it.
All right.
I'll just host it with Roseanne.
Right?
Just be a Caleb and Roseanne show.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. So, Caleb, any thoughts for you?
No, that's very interesting. I always love hearing, especially from people who were formerly homeless and have gone on to build big things. And even more so, Anthony is working to help people from the community that he was in before. He's experienced, and he knows what he's talking about. Yeah,
a lot of people come out of recovery, out of addiction, and they feel a need to make meaning and to give back because somebody did that for them. And they appreciate it so much. And there literally aren't enough professionals on earth to meet the needs of the recovering community. That's why, and the recovering community knows that and mobilizes and literally sits on the people earlier in their program to give them what they need. And one day they will do that for somebody else. All right. So we will see you on Tuesday at 2:00. Do support all the people that support us, and we will see you then. Ask Dr. Drew is produced by Caleb Nation and Susan Pinsky. As a reminder, the discussions here are not a substitute for medical care, diagnosis, or treatment. This show is intended for educational and informational purposes only. I am a licensed physician, but I am not a replacement for your personal doctor, and I am not practicing medicine here. Always remember that our understanding of medicine and science is constantly evolving. Though my opinion is based on the information that is available to me today, some of the contents of this show could be outdated in the future. Be sure to check with trusted resources in case any of the information has been updated since this was published. If you or someone you know is in immediate danger, don't call me, call 911. If you're feeling hopeless or suicidal, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255. You can find more of my recommended organizations and helpful resources at drdrew.com/help.